Juliana just passed her Praxis test using our study guide. In fact, she did it on her first attempt. After I saw Juliana's comment, I knew I had to make a video for the Praxis Elementary Science exam to help other people just like Juliana pass their test. My name is Emma, and I taught in elementary classrooms for many years. Now I work with 240 to help teachers pass their certification exams. And today, I'm going to help you. This video is going to prepare you for the science portion of the Praxis Elementary Education Multiple Subjects exam. And this video is going to cover 3 things: what's on the test and how to study for it, the most likely concepts that will be on the test, and we're going to look at a few practice questions. The Praxis Elementary Education Multiple Subjects exam is split into 4 subtests: Reading and Language Arts, Mathematics, Social Studies, and Science. Each contains a different amount of selected response questions. But for now, we're going to focus on Science, which has 55 questions in all. Ready? Let's go. Now, the Praxis Elementary Education Science subtest consists of 3 overarching categories. The categories are Earth Science, Life Science, and Physical Science. Each category has an outline of what to expect in that category, but as you'll see in a minute, they try to get a little tricky here. The last 4 specifications of each category are exactly the same. Understand science as a human endeavor, a process, and a career. Understand science as inquiry. Understands how to use resource and research material in science. And understands the unifying process of science. Since the test creators listed these 4 specifications in every category, we can assume they're pretty important. So let's pull these out and make a 4th category. We'll call it the process of science. There, that's better. It's helpful pieces of information like that you can expect from the 240 study guide. We've done the research for you, so you can find exactly what you need to know to pass your test in our study guide. But let's go ahead and talk about some key concepts now. Each of the 3 original categories makes up about 33% of your test, so you're likely to see about 18 questions from each branch of science. Let's start from the top with Earth Science, which actually covers Earth and space science. So yeah, that means you could be asked about anything on Earth or in space. Don't hate me, I promise it's not as daunting as that. The big things you're going to see here include Earth systems, weather and atmosphere, and astronomy. So we can kind of split it into what's on Earth and what's not on Earth. Let's start close to home and stay on Earth first. This means you're going to know all the big systems and cycles on our planet and how they work. So the rock cycle, the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the water cycle, and all the stuff that goes into changing land on Earth. So plate tectonics, volcanoes, and earthquakes, just to name a few. And if that sounds like a lot, you should check out our study guide where we help you through all of it. Let's take a sneak peek at what you'll see when you dive into plate tectonics. You're going to need to know the difference between the 3 types of tectonic plate boundaries. Convergent boundaries occur when 2 plates move towards each other. Divergent boundaries occur when 2 plates move away from each other. And transform boundaries occur when 2 plates slide past each other. Hey, camera guys, how do tectonic plates greet each other?
How?
They shake lands.
Nice. Yeah.
Moving on to weather and atmosphere. A big thing here is weather versus climate. Easiest way to break these 2 down is that weather is short-term, like over minutes or hours, while climate is long-term, like patterns that occur over years. And just like that, we're almost done with Earth Science. Ready to blast off? To infinity and astronomy! Lucky for you, our study guide has a video on this that is out of this world.
Okay. She's on a roll.
All right, let's check out the video.
The moon's phase depends on how much sunlight is reflected to us, which changes based on where the moon is on its orbit. There are 4 main phases, each about a week apart. New moon, which looks pretty much plain black. First quarter. Full moon, which looks fully lit. And third quarter. There are also 4 transitionary phases that occur between these points. 2 when the moon is waxing, which means the light we see is growing, and 2 when waning, which means it is shrinking. Some people remember this with wax on, wane off.
Good stuff, right? There's so much more to learn about astronomy. You could spend a bunch of time researching it all, or you could just go check it out in the study guide. Okay, let's move on to what's important to know from the life science category. Just like the earth and physical sciences, life science takes up roughly 33% of your exam. I mean, technically it would be 33.3333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333. So about 18 questions on your exam will come from category 2. And just like in earth science, we can pick out 3 big areas in this category that you need to know: structure and function of living things, genetics, and ecology. If those categories seem broad, that's because they are. You can get an entire degree in each one of them. So let's take out our microscopes and take a closer look at what you can expect to see on your test. Structure and function is all about structure and function of living things. There's a lot to cover in this section. Here are some of the biggest topics: understanding what qualifies something as alive, human body systems, and cells. But for now, let's focus on cells. There's a lot on cells. So we're talking about knowing the difference between plant and animal cells and what all the organelles inside of them do. Like how plant cells have cell walls while animal cells don't. And that the mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. Keeping all those organelles straight can be rough, but we've got a ton of flashcards in our app that you can use to quiz yourself until you've got them down. Next up, genetics. So we're talking genes. Hey, what did one DNA strand say to the other?
I don't know. What did one?
Do these genes look good on me?
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Anyway, you're going to need to know how to work one of these bad boys, a Punnett square, and all the vocab that goes along with it, like the difference between dominant genes and recessive genes and how they impact an organism's genotype and phenotype. Any organism that has at least one copy of the dominant gene will show the dominant phenotype, but an organism needs 2 copies of the recessive gene to show the recessive phenotype. And last but not least in this section is ecology. So we're leaving the lab and heading outside.
Emma, we're not heading outside literally.
Dang it, we'll just have to pretend. Because ecology is all about organisms, how they interact with each other, and how they interact with their environment. A good example of tracking these interactions is a food web. Ooh, we have a great video on this. Want to see it?
Ecosystems contain many organisms linked by food and energy relationships. Food webs show these overlapping food chains. Therefore, a food web provides a much more complex and detailed picture of how energy flows from producer to other organisms. These can be useful to determine the impact of removing a population. For example, if the frog population died out, there would be no food for the snake population, and it would also die out. Then the wolf population would have to depend more on the squirrels and birds, which might get overhunted. On the other hand, the bugs and grass the frog used to eat might have an increase in population.
Like what you saw? There are a ton more great videos just like that one in our study guide. Whew, life science, nailed it. That final 33% of your test, that comes from physical science. Like, let's get into physical science. All right, I'll save it for karaoke night. The 3 main things you'll see here are matter, force and motion, and energy. Now, I'm going to go over some amazing concrete concepts you should know. But to really get the confidence you deserve to pass the test, you need to get the 240 study guide. Our 240 study guides have hundreds of questions, in-depth videos, and test-aligned study materials so you can get the depth you need to pass. All right, let's get after it. In the matter part, you may have already guessed that you'll need to know all about the states of matter, the characteristics of a solid versus a liquid versus a gas. But there's more to it too. You'll need to know about chemical and physical properties, and you'll even see some questions about atoms and the periodic table here. In the force and motion category, you're going to need to know all about Newton's laws. So vocabulary words like inertia or how an object resists a change in motion will show up here. Which brings us to energy. Oh, kinetic and potential energy pop up here. Roll the tape.
We don't use tape, it's more digital.
You guys, you know what I meant.
Kinetic energy is the energy of motion. Anything that is moving has kinetic energy. Potential energy is stored energy and can be converted back to kinetic energy.
Guess what? We made it through all 3 sciences. But don't forget, we're not quite done talking about what's on your test. We've still got that last category that we made with those test specifications that showed up in all 3 sciences. So you'll see questions from this category sprinkled throughout your entire exam. But they still show up pretty regularly, so you're going to want to know what you're talking about. Everything in this category basically boils down to how to do science well. And two things that tend to come up a lot are lab safety and teaching science. So familiarize yourself with common lab safety rules like these. And want a good tip? When in doubt, just answer these questions using common sense. Like, don't eat or drink by chemicals, and tie back loose hair or clothing when working with flames. And last but not least, teaching science. Number one thing you need here, to know the scientific method. You didn't think we'd make it through an entire test on science without the scientific method, did you? I didn't think so. You'll need to know all the steps of the scientific method and how to do each one. But again, to really have the confidence you deserve, go subscribe to a 240 study guide. You can get the study guide for Praxis Elementary Science. Use 240 to guarantee you pass. Now that we've gone over some of the big concepts, let's take a look at some practice questions to show you how these concepts can appear on the test. Starting back with Earth science. Remember that section on Earth systems where we talked about the different kinds of boundaries? Let's look at how that's reflected in a question. Which of the following takes place at a transform plate boundary? In a transform boundary, plates always move sideways relative to each other, so this choice is correct. Let's look at one from weather and atmosphere. Climate is different than weather because weather, well, we talked earlier about how climate is long-term while weather is short-term, so that means this answer is best. Weather changes on a daily basis because heat energy, air pressure, wind, and moisture interact differently each and every day. Nice. Ready to head back to space? Which of the following moon phases occurs within the next 4 nights following a new moon? A new moon occurs when the moon is on the same side of the Earth as the sun. After a new moon, a small sliver of the bright side of the moon is visible on Earth. This sliver grows into a crescent moon within 3.5 days. An increase in the size of the bright side is called waxing. So, this answer is best. We made it through Earth science. Onward to life science. What about those tricky structure and function questions? What do those look like? Which of the following is present in plant cells, but not in animal cells? Animal cells have mitochondria, cytoplasm, and a nucleus. But only plant cells have chloroplasts. The chloroplast is the food producer of the cell. It converts light energy of the sun into sugars that can be used by the cells. Consider the following Punnett square. If capital A is dominant over lowercase a, what percentage of the offspring would be expected to show the dominant phenotype? Any organism that contains a dominant gene will show the dominant trait. 2 of the 4 boxes here contain a dominant gene, so this answer is correct. 50% of offspring would be expected to show the dominant phenotype. Last up for life science, ecology. Let's take a look at a question on food webs. An increase in the population of which of the following will most likely cause a population increase in every other level of the food chain? Producers are the plants upon which primary consumers feed. Primary consumers feed on the producers. Secondary consumers feed on the primary consumers, and so on up the food chain. All levels of the food chain are affected by population changes in the producers. So this choice is correct. We've made it through Earth science and life science. So next up, physical science. Let's throw you a tricky question on matter. Which of the following characteristics always describes a solid? Well, I know of lots of solids that aren't clear, so choice D is out. But solids are rigid, and they have a definite shape and a fixed volume. So A, B, and C are all correct. Let's do one on force and motion. A woman accidentally left her purse on top of her car and drove out of her driveway. She traveled a short distance down the road, and a deer darted out in front of her, causing her to quickly apply the brakes. When she hit the brakes, she saw her purse slide down her windshield and onto the hood of her car. Which one of Newton's laws does this scenario relate to? In this scenario, the woman's car stopped when she hit the brakes, but her purse kept moving forward. Newton's first law of motion states that an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by an external net force. So this is the best choice. Let's look at an energy question. A girl is sledding down a hill. At which point would she have the least potential energy? As the girl sleds down the hill, her potential energy is decreasing, and therefore it is lowest at the bottom of the hill, making this the best answer. Just those process of science questions left. Let's start with lab safety. Which of the following safety practices will be most applicable to first grade science labs? Children in first grade are unlikely to be handling dangerous chemicals, But there could still be unsafe elements that make it important not to eat or drink in the science lab, so this is the best choice. And last, but certainly not least, the scientific method. Of the following, which is most appropriate to do after testing a hypothesis? After testing a hypothesis, it is best to organize the data so that conclusions can be drawn. So this is the best choice. Now, that's just a small sliver of practice questions to give you an idea about how these concepts are assessed on the test. Congratulations on finishing the video. If you found it helpful, give it a like. There's still plenty more to learn. Did you know that we've helped thousands of teachers pass their Praxis exams? If you really want to make sure you're prepared for the Praxis Elementary Science exam, take the next step and subscribe to the 240 Study Guide. It has hours of videos, so you can watch or listen as you please. It's test aligned, so you know precisely what you need to study. And it has hundreds of practice questions, so you can be sure you're ready. And it has the money-back guarantee. So click the link below right now to get started.